Coming up today on Locked On at Texas Tech, dual coordinator searches. We talk names, targets, front runners.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you, picking up, well, basically right where we left off. We're already in the midst of a coordinator search. Why not make it two? Zach Kittley, the new head coach at Florida Atlantic, or at least set to be, and Tim DeRuyter now pursuing, well, other things, whatever that may be. And the Red Raiders pursuing an offensive and defensive coordinator. I want to get to some questions for you on both sides of the football. But I was kind of curious in general, when we see these type of changes happen, I think there might be sometimes some inclination to really switch a style or get to some, dramatically different identity than what you just came from. But there's also still a roster you're trying to keep together. And, football games you're trying to win still in the relatively near future next season. How do you balance those things? And what do you think stylistically, whether on the offensive or defensive side, we're in for? Is there any clear push maybe to switch that style up or to try and establish some carryover that might be familiar to guys already in your program?
Wonderful question.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes, it is. I think that you are going to try to find somebody, one, that just is the right fit from a personality standpoint, whether it be the right age or the right personality with the way they work with others, or your relationship with said individual, or what you've heard about said individual. I think that, but at some level, you're right. It's like, what do you want to run? I mean, how do you want to go about things? And then do we have that to be able to do it here, or can we go get it? That's not just quarterback, but that's offensive line specifically. Because I think so many people are like, man, I just want to just run it right at people, just ram it down their throat and like make them like it and all that. Well, you got to have the right people to do that. And there's very few. I mean, there's a reason that, I hate to say it, but like a Texas or a Georgia or a Ohio State or insert blue blood here, there's very few schools that can just, or Alabama used to be, where you just like hand it off and say, hey man, across over there, good luck. We're going to smash you in the mouth. I mean, that takes big boy offensive line, big boy running back, all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if you obviously have that here. There has to be some level of scheme and some level of advantage that you can give yourself with a quarterback that can run, or some sort of scheme like, wide zone, or, some sort of spread, or whatever it may be. Okay. So I think that's a great question. And I will say this, I'll be surprised if Joey is so married to something like that's what would, draw him to somebody or draw him away from somebody else or whatever. I think it's all about, can we be fairly balanced? Can we score points regularly? And can we do it with the people that we can either have here or that we can realistically get here? What does that look like? And that leads me to, and I've thought about this too, because I wasn't necessarily prepared for this conversation. Like, I don't know, a week or two ago, like, okay, what kind of offensive coordinator would you like, or who would make sense? Because there's always been because in the previous show that we did, and we were talking about all the people that have come here that have gone off, and that there's always like somebody waiting in the wings, or somebody that makes a lot of sense on coming back as either a head coach or an OC. And so you start putting all that together, and that's kind of when you start thinking of those individuals, their styles are kind of all over the map. I think you get a little mixture of all the above. So it's like a menu, that you could essentially choose from. But if you want to get into like some names or some possibilities that I have thought of that I think make a lot of sense and I think would be realistic, and I bet you are at some level in play or have at least been discussed with those phones burning up. Phones. Been a long couple days with trying to keep my brain straight here. So I think that's an interesting conversation to have too, because it's not just about style, it's person, but I think you've got a variety to choose from a variety of places, and some with ties to Tech, some with ties to Coach McGuire, some maybe that have zero of each. And it'll be interesting to see kind of what they ultimately settle on. And finances come into play. Contract situation comes into play. Where is this individual coaching right now? Are they, I think there's a lot of, so timing, I guess is what I'm saying. And then finances, obviously, because relatively speaking, Zach was making $850, relatively cheap. I think people would be surprised at what, like, one guy that I would have thought about that you actually faced this year that actually has ties to West Texas is a guy named Ben Arbuckle. He's actually kind of, I think Zach Kitley is the mentor to Ben Arbuckle. And Ben would tell you this. And I think, when we played Washington State this year, I think that a lot of that story came out, and Ben had worked for Zach and with Zach and all that stuff. And he's just a younger version. And he's about to, so like his situation, because it doesn't apply now, but I would have thought, well, he's somebody that you would probably have some interest in. West Texas guy. I mean, this is somebody, remember Cal, when we were previewing that Washington State game, Ben Arbuckle, he coached at Seminole High School like 7 or 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. He's Canyon ties, West Texas A&M ties, bright mind, fairly young into this, spent some time at Western Kentucky. Then obviously he crushed it at Washington State this year, all that. I believe that he has just taken the Oklahoma job. That's not the breaking news part, but I believe that contract number is going to be somewhere in the $1.6 million range, basically twice what Zach Kitley was making in Lubbock. And that's just kind of the market. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what all comes to pass. Like, okay, who can you get? Who can you realistically get? What's it going to take financially? All the stuff, right? So, yeah. So scheme factors in there somewhere, but there's a lot of other things that factor into it as well.
Yeah, I was kind of curious if guys would just say, man, I want to shop from this tree or this coaching lineage or pedigree. I like this guy's style. I like Hal Mummy. I like Mike Leach. So I'm going on this branch. And yes, I would love nothing more than to get into that very thing with you. Some names that maybe are popping up in your mind as some obvious connections. You just mentioned one there in Arbuckle, but anybody else that you think early on here could be on the radar?
So here's all the names that I have. This isn't by any means some official list. These are just names that I think are good at offense, have ties here or to Joey.
First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle all the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And right now, new customers can bet only $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL and a whole lot more, all in one place. So when you get a hunch, a gut instinct in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a gut feeling again, and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
These are just names that I think are good at offense, have ties here or to Joey, that I would, again, at the very least, think that either this person or it's come up in a conversation, or it's been at some level thought about, and they're all, it's kind of all over the map here. And so I'll just kind of go through it, but I'm maybe I've missed some. This is, like, again, not an official list, but hear me out. I think, I mentioned Ben Arbuckle, again, hot commodity and all that. I think he's off the market now and going to go to Oklahoma. What's also fascinating about Ben Arbuckle is, it is my understanding that was a decision for Coach Arbuckle to choose between Oklahoma and Utah. You're going to play Utah. And I believe that it's not going to surprise me if John Mateer, who you had a hard time tackling this season, if he goes with Coach Arbuckle to Oklahoma. And I think there was some thought that he would go to Utah with Coach Arbuckle. But so that's kind of, just to give you an idea how sometimes some of this stuff works. Okay, so he didn't really have necessarily a tie to Joey. It was more to Zach and to West Texas. Okay, but now let's go to some tech guys here. With what you may, so I've given you the $1.6 million figure. If you're willing to get into the 1.2 to 1.8, let's just kind of give it that range. And I don't know if you're willing to go that high at all. I have no idea. But I think it's going to cost you more than $850 to get an established guy based on just the market out there. Okay, so let's just go with that. If you're willing, if you can come up with that and you're willing to pay that, I mean, would Eric Morris entertain that? I think he's making like 1.1 or 1.2 as the head coach at North Texas. Would he not want to? I mean, hey man, I want to be a head coach. We got it rolling at North Texas, and all. This is what I want to do. I'm just tossing this out there because we just saw Gus Malzahn leave as the head coach at Central Florida to go be the OC at Florida State. So this, and Jeff Linder off of Grant McCaslin left the head coach at Wyoming to come be the associate head coach at. So this isn't like crazy. Could you entertain Sonny Cumbie, who they are going to retain? He's making about $1 million. So you can afford, but you're pulling these guys away from them being in charge, but maybe you can give them more job security, less responsibility, maybe more family life. I don't know, because like some of these guys, wait, so I don't have to deal with I don't have to go raise a bunch of money. I don't have to go really recruit. I just sit here and coach ball, and you're going to give me, because I bet you're going to have to give somebody at least a 2-year deal, maybe a 3-year deal. But you can give somebody some job security, less responsibility. The offense is yours. So I mentioned those two just because they have Texas Tech ties. And heck, man, Emo is extremely tight with Joey. They both talked about this season. Okay. Then you have somebody like Sonny Cumbie. Well, guess what? He tried to hire Sonny Cumbie as the offensive coordinator the first time. So he's already checked all the boxes on what kind of person he is and offense. And he saw how much those kids bought into Sonny as a human. There's not a better person walking around than Cumbie or Eric Morris for that matter. Okay. So there's you a couple of, but they're sitting head coaches. Okay. Then I look at what about a guy like Seth Dagey, who really turned Marshall around. And he's obviously played quarterback here. And I don't know what his ties to Joey McGuire would be, but he obviously kind of got some offense going. He's worked under Lane Kiffin. He was sitting on the other sideline when you beat Ole Miss in Houston 2 years ago in that bowl game. Seth Dagey was on Lane Kiffin's staff. And I remember him saying, yeah, I'm out of here. It's hard working for this dude. So, and then he went to Purdue, I think, and then he's now at Marshall, and they've had a good year. I think they've had a pretty good year on offense and all that stuff. So there's another one that's a tie. There's obviously the NFL possibility. Who the heck knows there? So as we've gone over like all these various options, and again, we may not have everything covered here. We may not have guessed right. We may not have thought of everybody, and more people could emerge, but if you're asking my opinion right now, I'm not so sure that some of those guys are ready to leave being a head coach. Okay. And I'm not so sure that Jake Spavital won't be a very, very serious candidate for you here. He's got a good job. Obviously, their offense was rolling. They're waiting on their bowl selection, just like you are. But I mean, he did leave Cal last year and went to go focus on everything. He's kind of a Texas guy. I don't know. Offensively, it checks a lot of boxes on kind of where you fit in nationally. I think his personality and scheme and everything would kind of jive here. There's not necessarily a Tech connection. I do think there's a Joey connection. And, wouldn't also rule out Garrett McGuire joining this staff in some capacity as well. So, yeah, we'll just kind of see where we go from here. I'm not trying to stir anything up. I'm just trying to give you my opinion, and that's kind of what I think right now. So we shall see.
Those are some intriguing names, to say the least. So hope you wrote all those down out there. Keep the list handy. That's some walking around knowledge to impress your friends with today.
And like everybody that I gave you, and I'm sure there's still candidate A, B, C, and D, E, and F, all the way to G that maybe we haven't considered for whatever reason. People usually go with somebody that there's a tie to in some form or fashion, whether they know them or they have a tie to the school or style of offense, whatever. And these guys all at some level fit. But I don't think Jeff Grimes has ever been a head coach before. Obviously, Ben Arbuckle, we're not talking about him anymore because he's going to go to Oklahoma. Seth Daigie's never been a head coach before. All those other guys either are currently or have been a head coach at the at the Division I level, if you will, or are currently one. And that's just, to me, that's worth something. Like I thought it was when Joey hired Tim DeRuyter. I mean, there's just something about being able to bounce stuff off of and all that stuff. But everybody that you want to talk about is like, you're going to point at, well, there's this that I don't like, or they had this bad year, or when they were this didn't go well. That's just how this stuff goes. So,
yeah. Okay.
If you're Joey, you just simply have to go with somebody that you feel like would be a good fit, that's got a good scheme, that would be that looks upon this place favorably. And I think most of these folks potentially would. And here's the other thing. You could theoretically hit another guy and help yourself out. If you go, like, say, take Kansas's OC or Baylor's OC, that you're competing with. So not that that's why you would do anything like that, but you could get a twofer on something like that. So we'll see. That's what I'm prepared to offer up at this time, subject to change. So we shall see kind of what. But I'm telling you, I think that some of this stuff plays out pretty darn quickly.
I love the twofer. Let's make it a threefer. Get somebody with a left tackle attached to their hip, or somebody else that might be impactful on the offense.
That's on the table. I mean, that's
sure in this area it is. It's kind of crazy that now you can maybe look at a tandem you like, or a combo with a coach and a player.
If you talk to Eric Morris, you better darn sure believe that he's going to be like, well, I can bring these 6 dudes with me, and they're pretty good. And maybe you don't want those 6, or they're not an upgrade, but this goes for, Baylor players, Kansas players, Louisiana Tech players, North Texas players, Marshall players.
It's just part of the process.
That's part of the deal. Here's a guy. These guys would fit. These guys would help us if you need this. I know this kid. And some of it may not fit, or some of it may not be an upgrade to what you want, or you may be aiming higher. I'm just offering that up, in that's a part of what we're talking about here.
And that's also what's happening on the defensive side of the football simultaneously for the Red Raiders, as they are hunting a new defensive coordinator. Before we get out of here, Chris, just wanted to check in on that search. I know there's been moving and shaking, but anything to the level of something to keep in mind as we head toward the midweek, conversations getting serious, conversations being organized, visits being organized, whatever it might be. What are you hearing to this point? First, today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Never sweat buying tickets to your favorite event again with Gametime. It's always a breeze using the Gametime app where you're going to find the best last-minute deals, and I love being able to scout out a view from any seat before pulling the trigger. Of course, you're always doing it at the lowest price guaranteed. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it begins, which means you can finish off that final brat, that final beer at your own pace at the tailgate, because Gametime is the place to find last-minute seats to any event. Gametime gives you the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets, but not just fast, also secure and simple to use. So right now, download the Gametime app and create an account and use our promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today for last-minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. What are you hearing to this point?
On defense?
Yeah.
What if I borrow from the page of, is there somebody that you have knowledge of, or maybe in your own league that you could, again, hurt another guy? This name's been floated out on the internet. I guess I tend to think that he may be I don't know whether I'm prepared to say primary candidate, leading candidate, somebody heavily involved in said search. But you play these guys next year, and I think Shiel Wood is his name, and he's the defensive coordinator at the University of Houston. And you may be sitting there going, Houston, they weren't very good this year. Well, they were on defense. Let me toss this out at you. They were 26th in the country, giving up 324 yards per game. They were 48th in the country, giving up 22 points per game. Realize how much better that is than what you did. In the same league, mind you, in the same league, that's, let's see here, that would be, 12 to 14 points fewer a game. That's about 140, 50-ish yards less a game that you're giving up. So I think he is somebody that is heavily in play here. We'll see if and he's been with Willie Fritz at Tulane, and now he's at Houston. And the thing about Willie Fritz is, and they showed some glimpses of it, I think he took over a mess at Houston with their roster and everything. He's a coach in this league, kind of like a Leipold. He scares me. And I say that because I think he's a really, really good coach. And if he gets the right personnel, I think watch out. And so, how do Joey or somebody on that staff, do they have a connection, or is this just an up-and-comer? I don't know, but I think that he is in play at some level here, and that's what I guess I'm prepared to say at this point. So we'll see if I'm right, if I'm wrong, how much this changes by the time you listen to this. But yeah, things seemingly moving quick. I don't know. We'll kind of stay tuned.
That's a lot to marinate on, but I'm liking a lot of what I'm hearing as far as some of these options on either side, and maybe some more to be revealed as we continue to roll through the week. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you miss nothing. Chris, appreciate the insights as always, man. Keep your phone charged. I'm sure we'll be in touch again soon, and we'll reconvene with our Locked On Texas Tech fam family as well. Enjoyed it, and we'll see you for the next one, whenever that may be.
Sounds good. Hang in there, people. We'll all get through this together, and this is just part of it. I feel as vulnerable as you all. I know these people personally, and some of the people that we've just discussed, I know, some of which I don't know from Adam. But this is the footballs, man, and this is what footballs do these days, especially this time of year. They start flying all directions, and it bounces different ways. The old oblong ball, if you will. So we'll be here to try to get through it together. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and guns up always, man.
This is what the football does these days. You got to let it do what it does, and what it does is this. So I actually welcome it. I think it's made the offseason even more exciting, honestly, as a fan to follow some of these moves. If you're one of those true sickos that's sick enough to follow all this stuff. So we appreciate all of those being out there in the audience. It happens fast and furiously, but there's a lot of action. And with the right opportunity, there's a lot of chances to get better as a football team, maybe a little bit quicker than you could once upon a time in a prior era. All right, thanks so much for being out there. Special shout out to those everydays for being out there once again. And to the Matador Mobsters, hit the show notes, find the link there for a free 14-day trial if you'd like to check in with the mob. Try it on, see how it suits you. Pinky ring not included, but maybe coming soon. It's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text straight to your phone. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks again for the time, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.